Happy 4th of July, and welcome back to another exciting episode of the Rocketeer Minute, where each and every day, Monday through Friday, we go over 1 minute of the greatest adventure movie Walt Disney ever made, the 1991 Joe Johnston-directed film, The Rocketeer. I'm one of your hosts, Jim O'Kane of TVDads.com.
And I'm Hal Bryan, an airplane nerd from the Experimental Aircraft Association here in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. And Jim, on the show, there are guests, and there are guests. And today we have a guest. We are so lucky to have a multi-talented hyphenate, actor, director, producer, singer, someone who's been in just about everything. You take a look at her IMDb record, you see everything from, as a kid, Police Story, Love Boat, Different Strokes, After School Specials, Magnum P.I., on up through what many know her best for as the amazing Jan Levinson and Jan Levinson Gould on The Office. But to us, of course, she will always be the singer in the South Seas Club. So with that, welcome, Melora Hardin. What a pleasure to have you.
Hi. Thanks, guys. Pleasure to be here.
You know, Jim keeps telling me, he keeps texting me saying, don't gush. But we don't get this chance every day. Yeah, we don't get this chance every day. I've got to say that I got to tell you two things right out of the gate. Number one, I feel I've been waiting more than half my life just for the chance to say thank you. So Thank you for the performance in this film. Your version of Begin the Beguine to me is definitive. It's the reason I love Cole Porter to this day. It has never been off of my, probably Walkman, CD burner, and now up through my iPhone. It's always been close by, and it's always been just part of the tapestry of my life. So I'm sure on behalf of many people listening.
Thank you. Maybe you were the one that wrote me that lovely fan letter when the movie came out. There was
Probably.
One guy who wrote me like one of the most lovely fan letters I've ever received about my version of Begin the Beguine. So.
I wish I could take credit for that. I think I was a little shy. Although when I ordered a copy of your CD several years ago, I think I put at least a modest note in there. But again, I heard Jim's voice even back then. Don't gush.
No, gushing is nice. We're performers. We need the applause. We love the applause. So that's very sweet, and you can gush all you want.
Well, I've got about 20 pages worth right here. This should only take about 2 or 3 hours for me to get through point by point. I think
we've only got a minute, but
yes, I know. We've only got a short period of time. Let me just say one act of blasphemy, and then we can move on. And that is, I will go on record as saying that your version of this song to me is orders of magnitude better than Ella Fitzgerald's.
Oh, my goodness.
I realize I'll probably be struck by lightning, but I don't care. I stand by it. I mean it with all sincerity.
Wow. Oh, that's really lovely. That's amazing. You've made my week, my year, my month. You've made I just went backward. I went up and then down again. You've made my week, my month, and my year is what I meant to say.
We're recording in May an episode that's going to air in July, and we're taking 20 minutes to talk about 1 minute of film. So I think we're pretty comfortable with the concept of messing with time right around here.
Okay, good.
We're totally fine with it.
I can't imagine that any like as a singer, it can't be anything better than to appear in a big band ballroom on screen, coming up from behind a giant scallop with a 3-foot tall illuminated pearl in a beautiful flowing white gown, and just walking up to that microphone and belting out Begin the Beguine. That must have been just a great feeling, I would think.
Yeah, that's pretty much about as good as it gets. There's no doubt about that. Yeah, it was incredible to, just that the whole visual of that set was on the actual Disney backstage lot, and it was so beautiful the way they made the South Seas Club. And I mean, it really was it was like being in a fantasy. It really was really like that.
Wow, it was an enormous set. I mean, even though I'm sure it was playback and stuff, just being able to be there and do that performance in front of all those extras, and the set looked like it was 3 stories tall. I mean, it definitely looks full size. So it must have been, I think, one of the biggest sets in this movie.
Yeah, it was gigantic. It took up an entire soundstage.
Wow. How long?
Which, if anyone's ever been to those are big. They're very big.
Oh yeah. How long were you working on the set there? How long did it take to film your scenes?
My scene, I think it really was just. I'm thinking about it. I think it was just one day. Yeah, I think it was one day. We did both songs in one day, and it was really, really fun. And both Jennifer Connolly and I were in those incredibly beautiful dresses, and I remember at
Yes,
one
we're
point,
familiar with them.
yes, they are so stunning, and I, getting that, even just the actual development of all of that, the way that it all came about, and then the way that they built that dress for me, and built that dress for her. It was like the costume designer was incredible. And everything was just so meticulously done. My dress had all these beautiful hand sewn crystals all over them, and the feathers, and it was just the whole thing was just like top notch and beautifully, incredibly well done. So it was quite fun. And Jennifer and I remember at one point we were like both dancing in our in our white dresses together, like as if we were, I don't even know why we started doing that. They must have been playing some music or something, or maybe they were playing my song. I don't remember, but it was really funny. But yeah, it was a very nice experience. The day was lovely, and it was really just, that set was just like, you get like your girlish giddies. You feel like, oh my gosh, that's, I'm in the movies. You don't always
Jim and
feel
I are
that
both
way.
experiencing that right now.
Yeah.
I promise.
Right?
I definitely have the girlish giddy. You can hear it in my voice.
Yeah.
The
It,
girlish
That's
giddies.
good. That's
it
good.
it does it looks like prom night times 10,000, the way that one little
I
scene is.
know.
And
I know. It's funny because I started acting professionally when I was 6 years old, and I literally have just a few, like a handful of I've been on so many sets and done so many things and so many movies, but I really do have a few standout moments like that, like the scene in the South Seas Club, where you really do have that moment of, wow, I'm in the movies, because it is so magical, and there is something so kind of otherworldly about it. It's sort of like, I remember, standing on the back lot at 20th Century Fox when I was a kid, and seeing the whole like New York facades that they had and at that time, and just there's times like that where you really do kind of have that wonderful Hollywood glamour of, even though you're in it, because when you're in it, it really is very different, and you really don't get to have that as much as I think other people on the outside do. So it's really fun that this was one of those times that certainly I walked in and went, wow.
Well,
Yeah, this
now
is so cool.
you were a backlot kid in that. I mean, I was assuming that you would follow your dad, Jerry Hardin, around to his work, or at least he'd take you to the office sometimes. So this must be like, you must be inoculated against most of it, I would think, in terms of just seeing how it's being made.
Yeah. I mean, it is. I mean, as a kid, it certainly was always fun to kind of be working, like when I was doing Little House on the Prairie, or I was doing, where you'd get to kind of go in and out of the sets and the facades, and it was always really fun to kind of explore, and and it just. But yeah, you. That's why I say, like, it is true that there's only those handfuls of times when you really like have that big aha excitement moment. And I think in a way I'm getting more of those moments now. Like the older I get, the more I'm like, everything kind of blows me away. Maybe that's part of getting sort of getting I don't know, more connected with your passion or something over time. I don't know.
Well, now that you're spending a lot of time on the other side of the camera, being a director. By the way, I saw your Paula Cole video was astounding. I love that video.
That was amazing.
It was really just very charming, and
Oh.
it was a nice update. And
My wife
Thank
got
you.
really
That was
excited about seeing that as well. She loves the song, and I think that helped a little bit with the sort of the jealousy of me hopping up and down. I get to talk to Melora Hardin. I get to talk to Melora Hardin. Honey, look at this video she did. Look, she's a professional. This is totally fine. So anyway, she really, really loved it. We both did.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you. Well, I'll tell Paula. She'll be really happy about that too. It was a lot of fun for us. She's one of my very best friends, and so it was pretty exciting to work together in that capacity, and to come to find out that we actually are not just great friends, but we actually are really great collaborators, and that doesn't always work out that way with friendships.
wow.
So.
Well,
Right.
well, it was beautiful, sweet, and charming. Just to let you know, if you were saying about
Oh.
performers needing feedback, it was an excellent video.
Oh, well, I will tell her that. Thank you very much for saying so.
Wow. Now, I have to allow one question from Hal because Hal always presses for some reason someday in the future we're going to have to do the Iron Eagle minute. So I think Hal might have one Iron Eagle question.
Oh God. Okay. Yeah. Don't do the Iron Eagle minute. Really don't.
Really?
But if you're
Oh
going
my
to,
gosh.
yeah, but you can certainly do the question right now.
So you've got to understand, I've been a pilot pretty much my entire life. I'm second generation, been around airplanes, and in particular old airplanes, vintage airplanes and stuff. So that's one of the many, many reasons the Rocketeer resonates with me so much.
Sure.
But of course, Jim put me totally on the spot. All I can think of right now, if you've seen the old Saturday Night Live sketches with Chris Farley doing the really, really bad interviews.
I have,
He's just super
yes.
nervous. So all I've really got, Melora,
he's
is
incredible.
I'll give you this. It's remember that time when you were an Iron Eagle? That would be my question, and then I will tell you that was awesome. So.
Oh, thank you so much. I was excited about doing Iron Eagle, and it was going to be a big movie, and I think it actually did quite well. The thing that I have a bad taste in my mouth about Iron Eagle is that it was, it was sort of directed by Sidney Furie, who didn't bother to tell me at that time. That was before cell phones, and I went to the screening of it in Westwood, which I think they rented out 2 theaters in Westwood to do like a big premiere of the movie, which I went to, and for whatever reason, he didn't bother to let me know that I'd been cut out of like 10 scenes in the movie.
No.
So it was very painful thing for me at that time to sit there in the movie theater kind of counting my scenes that were gone.
So note to self, track down the Iron Eagle deleted scenes with more Melora Hardin.
Yeah, I wonder if you can even find them. I mean, it was really it was really fun, and actually the character and the love story between my character and Jason Gedrick's character was actually really quite sweet. But I guess they wanted more airplanes and more blowing up, and I understand that they were appealing to you, Hal.
You have closure. I understand. Yes.
Yeah. As a 17-year-old at the time, I got to say I was right on the line. Girls or airplanes. That was
why not?
That was a very conflicted point. I'm going to put my feet up. Maybe we can talk more about my childhood here, just a little bit. You can help me through this once and for all.
Well,
I did have a question back, sort of coming back to the Rocketeer minute at hand, and that is, Jim mentioned this being playback, and maybe not everybody listening is as familiar with sort of the inner workings of how a picture is put together. So obviously, this is you singing, but this is you singing on something that was pre-recorded.
That's right.
Right. So you're on the set. They say quiet on the set. They start playback, and then you're obviously hearing it because everybody's sort of miming to it appropriately. But I always wondered what else are you hearing? Does it sound rich and full and lush? Is it just loud enough that you can hear it and know what the words are, or what's that environment actually like?
Well, I mean, you've gone and done it. Right. That's number one. So, sure. So, I worked on it. There was an incredible arranger from the 40s named Billy May.
Wow, Billy May.
He arranged it. Yep. And worked with me, privately in his home. And then with the 80-piece orchestra, I'd never sung with a gigantic orchestra. That was my first time. I have since then, luckily, been able to do that. But at that time, I really hadn't. And also his arrangement is so complex and wonderful. A lot of the da 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 da, that kind of those horns that you don't, as a whatever I was at the time, I don't know, I was very young, but I mean, I just was sort of like, I remember hearing those horns and going like, oh my God, where's the melody? Where's the melody? I remember, and it was so cute because Billy May was like, he was still recording the violins when I walked in to do my recording session, and I walked in and he said, go ahead and get in the vocal booth, and you can sing along if you want. And so I started singing along and completely got lost because I was just so fascinated and just so mesmerized by these incredible parts that the horns were playing and the clarinets were playing and that I was like, when they begin, I just got lost and it was horrible. And then and he was so sweet, and all the musicians all shuffle out, and they were all amazingly lovely to me and saying how good I sounded, even though I must not have sounded good, but I guess they could hear my voice through the melodic mess up. And then James Horner and I went to the piano and turned the lights out and in this recording studio, and everybody was gone, and we just sat there and he played it for me on the piano because I was so freaked out that I had lost the melody line in all of the hoopla that he played it for me, and I just sang it there with James Horner, and I'll never forget that because that was a pretty amazing moment. With Joe Johnston sitting in the vocal engineering booth and just sort of listening, and then we sang through it once, and then James went into the booth, and then they turned on the track, and I sang with the orchestra, and that was it.
Are you
we did
serious?
It
one take.
Yeah, we did
that was
both
one
of the songs
take
in one take. Yeah,
Oh
actually, I
gosh.
think When Your Lover Has Gone we may have done twice, but Begin the Beguine we did it one time after I sang it with James on the piano.
Wow, stunning.
And I've been listening to this for more than 25 years, and so the return on investment, I guess, must be really pretty good.
Yeah.
That just blows my mind. I think
Wow.
that was one take. Hey, you should come back. Well, we worked for weeks and tried everything. Not that you don't have the talent to take it in one, of course, but wow.
It was pretty cool. It was pretty cool, I have to say. And then, and then when you're listening back, I still sing along. When you're on the set, you still sing, because if you don't sing, the veins in your neck and your tongue doesn't move the same way, or your veins don't move the same way, your larynx doesn't move this. Nothing looks really real if you're not actually making that sound. So. Yeah, so I definitely sing along, and that particular scene, they had it blasting through the whole South Seas Club because they needed a lot of things to be happening, and then when they were doing my close-up stuff, they still would have it coming out loud. I've done other stuff where I've lip synced to myself, or sung to myself, and I've done that where I've heard it in my ear. I've had like an earpiece in, but the people outside haven't heard. They're not hearing what I'm hearing. I'm hearing the whole track, and they're actually recording for sound. Like I did a series called Wedding Band for a while that was on TNT, and in that one I sang, and the people that were sitting in the audience had to just hear me basically singing a cappella because I was singing out, but they wanted to record my vocal live, and then they put the track in later. But that was different than Rocketeer.
I have another question, not related to singing but to acting. Was it hard stepping up on that clam when you were coming around? I was thinking that would be.
Is it not technically an oyster, Jim?
I don't know, but it's kind of.
I think it is an oyster.
I feel like
isn't it?
But it's kind of a scallop shape,
What
so
makes
I'm
the
a little
pearls?
confused.
Oysters.
I think oysters
Yeah,
make
it does
pearls.
look like a clam.
Anyway,
it looks like
back
a clam. There is a pearl in it. You're right.
Right.
So it's maybe a little bit of both.
Yeah.
So back to this episode of the Mollusk Minute.
Yes.
We do have different themes, Melora. Anyway, Jim, your question.
I was just thinking,
stepping up out of whatever
you're
it is.
stepping up in this long flowing
Yes.
gown that's rather clingy, and you're trying not to fall into the swimming pool while doing this and getting the steps right. That must have been quite a feat.
Well, I remember that there were a few steps and they were pretty steep. But really, once you get, I'm a dancer, and so it really is. Even though it's just walking, it really is just choreography. And so, obviously, when you're doing any kind of choreography, you have your shoes to contend with, you have your costume to contend with, and different shoes and different costumes make you, dance the dance differently. And so. So I just sort of walked it a few times without anything. I think I walked it quite a few times actually to kind of get a sense of how the steps needed to go, how also, timing it right, because they wanted me to arrive at a certain time at the mic, and getting the clarinet, the band leader to step out of the way at the right moment because he's standing on one of those discs as I walk down. So there was choreography in that, and I kind of just worked that out in my brain. But I'm often very grateful for my dance background in moments like that.
Wow. I've got one other question about this particular scene. Is that you in the background when we switch to the Timothy Dalton and Jennifer Connelly scenes, or is there a stand-in Melora on the stage?
Oh no, that's me. No, I was
Okay.
there. Yep.
It's
me.
all you.
Yep.
Okay, you do your own stunts.
That's all.
Okay.
I do my own stunts. Yes. Yes.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Wow. Well, this has been fantastic, and we're going to have you back in just a few weeks to talk about the other song that you're in. So please stay tuned. But Melora, right now you're working on a project that should be premiering shortly. I think on the 11th on Freeform. And if let's talk about that a little bit. What's that about?
It's called The Bold Type, and it is inspired by the life of Joanna Coles, who was the editor-in-chief of Cosmopolitan magazine, and my character is sort of inspired by Joanna. And I play the editor-in-chief of a Cosmo-type magazine called Scarlet Magazine. And the show is sort of sexy and fun and in the world of fashion and love and romance, but also really tackling a lot of women's issues, a lot of current modern day issues for women, and I play a very empowering boss. So I really love that about her. She sets a high bar, but she's a great example to young people that are looking to either become a boss that has integrity and a heart, or to have a boss like that. So I feel like a lot of women bosses on TV are portrayed as either bitches and mean and angry and assholes, or they're, sort of or they have like sort of the perfect family life, and then they're really a failure at work. I know a lot of women that are really successful at both their love lives and their work lives, and do it in a very graceful and pretty powerful way. So I'm very pleased to be that kind of a woman on television that's not conniving and manipulating, but is really working towards the goal of making a great magazine, but also empowering her young employees.
Cool. Well, it sounds like an intriguing show, and that'll be on the 11th on Freeform TV. So
that's right.
Awesome. Wow. Well, great.
Yeah.
Well, great. Well, let's hold off the rest of our conversation. I've got a bunch of other questions about things going on in the show, but we'll get to that in a few weeks. But thanks so much for being on our episode. This is exciting. Hal and I can both have a nice quiet lie down for a little bit and wait for a couple weeks until a new one comes up.
I have the vapors. It's true.
Oh, well, thanks, you guys. It was a pleasure, and I'll talk to you soon.
Yes. And for those of you that are listening in the audience that want to leave polite and kind conversations on our social media, we're available on a number of different sources. You can go to Twitter, Rocketeer Minute. You can go to Facebook, the Rocketeers Bulldog Cafe. Just look for that in Facebook. Hi there, Jim here. Unlike Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, or any of the more popular podcasting platforms, YouTube does not allow us to play Melora Hardin's music on Melora Hardin's episode. So you could probably find it at one of the better podcasting platforms that I just mentioned. Thanks for listening. Over and out.